Hey guys, it's Clovis, and today we are going to talk about how to beat Rex in 3 turns, and of course, in general, it's a clickbait discussion on how to beat this guy using some speedrunning strategies where we manipulate the AI and just in general get a bit of insight on how to destroy the opponents by manipulating the AI. So you learn quite a bit, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. We're going to focus on, the pretty obvious explanation if you saw in the intro. Dimensional is a card that enables some of the fastest strategies on a lot of opponents in the game, and you can find Dimension Hole in the Patrician of Darkness starter deck. And if you open with Dimension Hole on pretty much any duel, this one in particular, it is the fastest way to beat this guy. Now, I did mention in the Skull Knight video, again, check that out, that if you have like a Muka Muka, you can kill anyone in like 2 turns. You could apply that strategy here. After doing something like Dimension Hole and then just attacking him with Muka Muka, you totally can kill him. You can pretty much kill anyone like that, but I do want to focus on a more realistic scenario where you have, for example, the Patrician of Darkness starter deck. So in this scenario, we basically need to open with a Dimension Hole, and then we need to make sure that we deal a total of 4,000 damage on the 2nd and 3rd turn. If you notice, we maximize our movement. We basically use the Dimension Hole to leapfrog. That is the fact that we actually get so many movement tiles out of simply playing this card diagonally, moving it forward, and then passing, and then on our 2nd turn we move the Dimension Hole again before we activate it, and then move our deck leader. So because our deck leader can't move diagonally, we actually manage to leave the Dimension Hole 3 movement tiles away from our deck leader, and then we gain another 2 movement tiles from that 2nd turn. Overall, we take 5 turns worth of movement in 1 single card across 3 turns. And of course, we can play another monster on our 2nd turn, and then on our 3rd turn, we can play another one, or fuse over our previous card. Any combination that results in us attacking him for 4,000 attack on the 2nd and 3rd turns, that is a 3-turn kill. That is as simple as it gets, really, and well, the only thing to worry about is if you don't open with Dimension Hole, then it gets a bit more complex. So for Rex, the best strategy apart from that is what I call the sandwich strategy, and it's a good opportunity to learn something about sandwiching in general, which is kind of elementary level manip for any opponent, is that the enemy tends to not want to move into a monster that has a higher attack, even if the weaker card is threatening an attack. This also occurs in some maps, pretty much all maps actually. The AI just generally don't want to move into a higher attack card, even if there's like Labyrinth in the way. So the point of this is that if we open up with a monster on our top right and then just launch that forward, move our deck leader to the left, then on our 2nd turn what we do is we play a monster in front of us after moving forward, and if this monster is a higher attack, what we can do is flip that up, launch it 2 spaces forward, and then our original monster that we played in our 1st turn, we can move that 2 spaces forward. And now, Rex is in a scenario where the weaker card of ours is threatening an attack on him, but he doesn't move away because then he would move into the attack of the higher one. So at this point, we can attack him with the weaker one. We can also push our stronger one forward, and then we can attack him up to 2 times here and destroy him. And so this is the 2nd fastest way to kill him, and it's not ultra reliable. This does mean that you basically need to open with a card that's a decently high attack on the 1st turn, and then a card with a higher attack on the 2nd turn. This also means that whatever you played in the 1st turn can't beat the card you played on the 2nd turn, and there are a lot of other things to worry about with this duel. For example, he has 50 deck cost spell cards such as Eternal Rest, Stainstorm, and Breath of Light. So basically, if you have anything strong on Wasteland that isn't a dinosaur, they're always at threat of dying to these cards, so if this happens to you, you can just try this again. This is just part of the game. He has I don't know, maybe it feels like 1 in 4 duels you'll see one of these cards, and there's nothing you really do about it. Another problem is you can attack into Bear Trap. So if he opens with Bear Trap and the first card you played is 2k attack or lower, and it's not like a Dokkan Ozo that attacks through short range traps, you're actually in a lot of trouble. You just straight up lose to that card. And the reason why this is so dangerous is actually because you want to have 2 monsters on the field in these non-dimensional strategies. Because what happens when you have 2 monsters on the field, especially if they're opposite side of him, is he is magic locked, so he actually won't play any monsters in response to you. And the biggest benefit of this is if that he doesn't have any spells or traps or anything in his hand apart from monsters. He will play nothing. And I mean, I could talk about how this is faster, really it's just safer because he won't suddenly now, you know, play a spell, like even a Sparks or something like that may seem like it's not really a big threat, but it means he can draw into one more card and create this like trickle effect where he can suddenly top deck Eternal Rest, and yeah. If one of your two monsters ends up dying, the problem here is that he will play another dinosaur, and in reality his dinosaurs can beat your cards pretty easily. You know, he could have a top deck, like he could have a Brachioratus in his hand. So if he ever skips a turn, like if there's a turn where he doesn't play a monster, he can play Brachioratus and just kill your guy. Like the only card you can beat that with is like an equipped Pumpkin or the Great Mammoth the Goldfind, so it's actually quite difficult. One way you can avoid that though, which is pretty important for a reason I'll get to in a second, is actually if you avoid playing in the left middle column, instead you move to the left and then you play your monster top left in the very left column and then go from there. So the reason why this is important to learn, I do this all the time in no passwords. The main reason for this is actually... Okay, so if you're doing a speedrun and you do the Lancastrians on the second side, like say you start fighting Taya through to Minnow and Fabula Chakra, now if you have 3 or more wins on your save file, whether it's Rex or Weevil, they will now play equips. So the problem here is that Rex on his first turn will play equips on his first monster. So if he opens with something like 2-Headed King Rex and 2 of the raised body heats, he has 3100 attack on that first monster, and you're just not beating that. Like, you're just not beating that. So something I've gotten very used to is playing in the very left column. This is very similar to the sandwich strategy, but the thing is you can actually make do. You don't have to worry about the first monster he plays, and again, if you have 2 monsters out, he won't play any monsters. So you can keep pushing him, and then this just creates an effect where you don't have to worry. Like, the first monster he plays is a non-factor. That's the biggest perk of this strategy. So you play a situation where you have the first monster you play, that's always the same, apart from Dimensional, obviously, and the second one, you play all the way at the left column, and then you just keep sending both of them. Now, when I talked about the sandwich strategy, again, we have discussed just then how he tends to not move to a position where the highest attacker monster threatens him. So depending on which of your monster's attack is higher out of the first or the second monster you played, will make him either continue to move into the corner or stop moving. And there is more complexity to this. For example, if that first monster he's played is going to travel like back down towards his deck leader, it's because it can beat one of your cards. And if you let that card destroy one of your monsters, he absolutely will play another monster, and as I mentioned, that is probably a Brachioratus or even a Practical with any number of equips, and that's pretty much guaranteed to destroy your card, and from that point there's like no coming back. So you really need to be careful about that. But apart from that, you can be in a really good position. Otherwise, you don't want to ruin things and mess them up. You really, really, really don't. So make sure you're careful about that. In general, you need to make sure that if you have a higher attack to his right, that he will stop moving there, and then... I mean, at this point in the duel, if he's not playing anything, he's not going to, and if he keeps sending that first card down towards your deck leader, you really don't need to worry about anything. Just make sure that you don't ruin anything position-wise. I know it's very complex. This will take a bit of practice to get down, but you need to make sure that you don't put him in a position where he can actually ruin what you have. So, yeah. Again, the duel overall is simple. You're pretty much always going to lose to a card like Eternal Rest. You also lose to Bear Trap if your first monster has 2000 or less attack, unless it's like Dokoroso. But once you have 2 monsters out, apart from those 2 things, you're actually quite safe, because he won't actually play any monsters once you have 2 out on the field. So yeah, use that information well. Might take you more than 2 hits to kill him, but it means you can win with cards that have less than 2000 attack. Of course, unless he does Bear Trap win, in which case you've just lost, and that's just kind of part of the duel. Remember, Rex is the first duel in the game, so you can do this as many times as you want to try to beat him, and if you're speedrunning, if you get bad luck on him, you can restart and try again. So yeah, I hope this was an informative video, and I hope you guys appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video, and make sure also, before we go, check me out on Twitch, that's where I speedrun. Thank you guys, and I'll see you later.